And just a heads up, we are live on YouTube.
Perfect. I think, Vicky, when you're ready, feel free to take us away.
Yes, it will be an introductory part, so if people join it, they won't miss much. Hello, my name is Victoria Doronina, and I am a trustee, and I've been on the board since the end of 2021. I am a lead on the sister project here about a bit later. So the board oversees Wikimedia Foundation work, and we do strategic planning and support with the budget. But connecting with communities is critical for us to know that Wikimedia Foundation is going in the right direction. So this call is for connecting with communities. We do it quarterly, and we share updates, what we've been working on, what was happening in the foundation, and hear feedback and answer questions. We rotate the time of this conversation, so the next one will be at Wikimania in Katowice, Poland, where we hope to see a lot of you in person, and people will be joining online as well. And then our final call of the year will be at 11 a.m. UTC, so hopefully people for ECUP will be joining. This time we will try a slightly different approach that we had last time. We will do quick updates, and then we will talk about movement charter, and then we will have 45 minutes open to questions on any topic. Now I would like to invite trustees, other trustees that are present on the call, to introduce themselves. And let's start with the chair of the board, Natalia. And then you will pass to somebody else. Natalia?
Natalia Tymkiew. I'm a Ukrainian Wikipedian. I joined the board in 2016, and I'm the chair of the board. I'm going to pass to Luis.
Hey, Luis Cordemelio, dialing in from São Paulo. I joined almost 3 years ago, coming up on my 3-year mark here, and very interested about all things Wiki, but particularly about the product and tech side of the world and the global south side of things as well. I will pass on to Shani because her square is right below mine on my screen.
Thanks, Luis. My name is Shani Evenstein-Sigalov. I'm joining from Israel tonight. I've been a Wikimedian since 2011 and on the board since 2019. I'm the chair of the Community Affairs Committee, and really happy to be here tonight, and passing on to Kathy.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Collins. I joined the board in December of 23. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm chair of the audit committee, and along with Lorenzo, one of the vice chairs of the board. Looking forward to the conversation. And passing on to Rosie.
Rosie is not here tonight,
okay,
unfortunately, but
I know Jimmy mentioned that his connection might be a little spotty, but let's see if we can try. Jimmy. Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good test if any questions come my way later. Yeah, hi, I'm Jimmy. I've been on the board for quite a long time, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Obviously, everybody knows who I am, so.
Thanks, Jimmy. Are we missing any trustees for introductions on the call?
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'm Lorenzo. I'm from Italy. I've been in Wikimedia and editing Wikipedia for a long time. Currently, I'm one of the vice chair of the board and chairing the Product and Technology Committee. And I think I'm the last one.
Yes.
Perfect. I think that's my cue then. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to go over the ground rules for the call today. I'll introduce myself first. Nice to see many of you who are regulars on this call, a couple new faces as well. Nice to see you all. My name is Elena Lappin. I am a Movement Communications Manager at the Wikimedia Foundation. I'm going to be facilitating this call live from San Francisco. As Vicky mentioned, the structure of the call will be simple. We're going to have some quick updates from the trustees about what they've been working on recently. And then we're going to move to the one and only agenda item for the day, which is to discuss the movement charter. So we'll have a quick introduction on the movement charter and then open the floor for discussion for a little while on that. The last 45 minutes of the call, we're going to be doing open Q&A, and we can use that as a place to continue the discussion about the charter and about anything else that's on your mind that you'd like to talk to the trustees about. We have some questions that were asked ahead of time that we'll be asking during the open Q&A section, but I think most of the open Q&A is going to be devoted to live questions and live discussions of anything that you bring for us here. As always, we'd love for you to be asking questions as we go here in the Zoom chat or in the YouTube chat. If you are here with us in the Zoom room and you want to speak live, just raise your hand. We'll add you to the queue and I'll call on you to unmute. As the facilitator for the call today, I really want to put a fine point on two things. One being the purpose of the call and the other being the basic ground rules for the call. So the purpose of the call is really about connecting. It's for you to connect with the trustees as people, as volunteers in this mission with you. And it's for trustees to be able to connect with you as people, face to face, kind of removing the text barrier that we so often have when we talk to each other. And to really be able to understand each other's priorities, concerns, challenges, open questions, all of that, so that we can collaborate better. In terms of the ground rules, of course, this call is covered by the Universal Code of Conduct, but I do want to mention 3 ground rules for this call in particular. We want to make sure to comment on the content and not on the contributor and respect each other, even when we disagree. The second being, let's speak in turn and take care to not interrupt one another. And the last is keep your questions specific and concise. This is so that the trustees can know what to engage with, what to respond to, and so that you really get the information that you want out of the question that you're asking. And it's also to give more people an opportunity to speak. I know we have a number of people here in the Zoom room with us and more people even on YouTube. So we want as many people to get time to participate in the discussion as possible. So to recap, 3 main ground rules will be reminding people of today: comment on the content, not the contributor, respect each other, please speak in turn, and keep questions specific and concise as much as you can. My role as a facilitator will be to manage the queue and also make sure we're following the ground rules as we go. This meeting is being recorded. As always, it will be available on the YouTube link that you use to stream it immediately and then on comments afterwards. And we'll also put answers on Meta for any questions we don't have time to cover today. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Shani to talk about some of the milestones we've hit in the movement in the past couple months since our last call. There's been a lot going on. So Shani, over to you.
Thank you, Elena. Yes, it's been a busy few months since we last met everyone, and important things have been happening all over the movement. Lots of different initiatives, projects, and decisions at the board level as well. But we wanted to kick off this meeting by celebrating some milestones. And the first that I want to mention is Wikimedia Ukraine, who just turned 15, and Wikimedia Germany, who just turned 20. So congratulations to them. We also have the Wikimedians of the Levant celebrating 9 years, and Portuguese, Japanese, Spanish, Swedish, and Italian Wikipedias have all turned 23. Wow, that's a long time to be doing that. Some more celebrations with Indonesian Wikipedia that turned 21, and Malay, Wiktionary, and Wikibooks turned 20. The Wikimedia Foundation itself turned 21 just last week. So we have been celebrating in a board meeting and continuing some celebrations and convening. We had WikiCon Portugal and the Wikimedia Summit, both happening in April, and ECEP conference happening in Malé in May, and the hackathon happening also in Estonia in May. There was also the Global Advocacy Meetup hosted by Wikimedia Chile in Santiago, also in May. So May has been a busy month. And many exciting campaigns are now happening, like Wiki Loves Folklore in Madagascar and Wiki Loves Earth in the Levant. There's also the elections to the Universal Code of Conduct that were held, and for the coordinating committee, 7 members were elected, 3 regional members and 4 community at large members. So congratulations to everyone. There will be, I understand, a special elections held to fill in the remaining seats that were not filled during the first election. So more information on that will be shared soon. There's also, as some of you may know, elections to the Board of Trustees itself. It's already happening. We have 12 candidates. Some of them are in the call tonight. And in terms of the process, I just wanted to mention that this is the time for community to ask questions, to ask the candidates various questions. The board is also going to start a series of onboarding activities with these candidates, and we are going to open the voting in September. There are more details that you can find on that on Meta. And thank you, Mayor, for posting all these different links. Last but not least, we have a voting for the movement charter draft, which opened just yesterday, and will devote, as you know, most of this call for this topic. So thank you and congratulations to all the people who have been celebrating in the past few months. And I'm handing in to Lorenzo to start the board update section. Thank you.
Thank you. Starting from the news related to the affiliation committee, we in November 2022, we started a process about the Wikimedia Foundation affiliate strategy to help guide the foundation work in supporting affiliates in the next years, and specifically focusing on affiliate recognition, because that's what is more within the responsibilities of the board. And as part of this process, and the result of this process, AFCOM recently got to resolutions. One setting adopting 10 criteria for evaluate the health of an affiliate. These are grouped into areas that are goal delivery, organizational development, leadership and inclusion, and engagement and coordination. Also, the affiliation committee made some changes to the user group recognition process, especially for the start of the process, which now requires a live interview with AFCOM, a requirement that the user groups make a declaration of intent on the projects that they are that are relevant for them, and there will be a 1-year trial period for applicants before getting to a full recognition. Because of this, there will be a couple of months of pause in recognition of new user group in order for AFCOM to adapt to this new process. But it's a short pause. Things will resume as normal in September 2024. So to Vicky for the updates on Sister Project Task Force.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So what is Sister Project Task Force? it's a group of trustees and volunteer advisory members that is working on the process of opening the new projects. And by sister projects, we mean the projects that Wikimedia Foundation supports. For example, Wikimedia Commons, Wikiversity. So there should be a procedure to open the projects. On the other hand, there should be a procedure to evaluate existing ones because some of them are more successful than the others. And we prepared a short procedure, a guideline that people will have to follow if they want to apply to open the new project or merge or do other things with them. Because what we had before was just a page on Meta, and the board was supposed to do it. So most of the conversation was happening on Meta, and we have some really good feedback. We also held several calls in different time zones, and again, we collected the feedback, and now we will discuss the input. We will amend the proposed procedure, and then in July on the Community Affairs Committee, we will discuss it with the committee with the potential of this being established as a process to open and close sister projects. That's it for me. Cassie, who is our vice chair, she will tell us about outcomes of the board meeting in June. Cassie?
Thank you, Vicky. The board met virtually on June 20th. The main agenda item was to review and approve the annual plan and the budget that both go hand in hand. The timing was important because the fiscal year, the budget year for the foundation begins July 1 and runs through June 30th. So indeed, the board had a presentation on the annual plan and also on the budget, and voted to approve both. And as you may know, those documents are on Meta. The budget is balanced with revenues and expenses of 188.7 million. And you can see financial details on the budget discussion on Meta. A lot of people put a lot of effort into developing both, and the board was very appreciative of that. Then the board approved short-term extensions for 4 trustees, Darius, Rosie, Vicky, and Lorenzo, so that we could get appointments in sync so that they did not end before the results of the upcoming board elections. And then we voted to reappoint for another term Luis, who is on the call, and Jimmy also on the call. So both of them have been appointed for another 3-year term. And trustees, just as background, are eligible to serve for 3-year terms and then are termed out. And Luis is completing his first year term. And Jimmy, of course, has a special seat as the founder. And so that was another key aspect. Those were the main action items and discussions. We meet again as a board meeting during Wikimania, so of course that will be in person, and look forward to meeting and seeing many of you there. So I'm going to hand over then to Shani to open the conversation of the charter.
Thanks so much, Kathy. So hi again. I am opening this section in my capacity as the chair of the Community Affairs Committee. and also as a former liaison to the MCDC, which I served until, I think, October of last year. First of all, I want to say that I'm very grateful to the MCDC for the time, the energy, and really tremendous resilience over the past few years, and their perseverance in grappling with really complex challenges and difficult conversations. Before we even start talking about this, I wanted to stress the importance of voting in the process. This would be really the first time that everyone in the movement would be able to react to the final draft, which was published just 2 weeks ago. We really hope that all of you read it, think about it, and go and vote. You can vote yes, you can vote no, you can abstain, but most importantly, we really want to hear your feedback. The mechanism of voting is such that we really want to know what you think about it. What are the issues that you find? What is missing? What we haven't touched? What is not getting enough attention to your from your perspective? This is also the first time ever that we will globally collect data on the charter. So this would be very helpful for everyone involved in the process to have as much data as we can, so we can move forward together. It may be worth noting that the world around us has really shifted significantly. We have limited resources, especially when you compare us as an entity serving one of the most visited websites in the world. Budget-wise, our budget is tiny, and we have considerable risks, and that means we have to be much more calculated in the way that we're doing things, and thinking about programmatic trade-off and choices. The Board of Trustees have the duty to consider all the risks, all the value, the costs and benefits of everything, and really, especially when it comes down to any significant commitment being made to advance our joint mission. And I'm going to finish off by saying that the MCDC has requested liaisons to give feedback directly to them. Specifically, liaisons have shared feedback on the Global Council and feedback on the previous draft. Those were posted publicly, and Mayur is now posting the links. Liaisons have also regularly attended MCDC meetings, and from the other side, MCDC members were invited to join us in our board meetings and strategic retreats ever since June of 2022. So we've done all we can to really work together and have transparency in what we do. The board is going to vote on ratifying or not the proposed charter, and in a special meeting that will be held in, like everyone else, between June 25 and July 9th. The board has received recommendations from liaisons, but it's important to stress that no decision has been made just yet. There's no resolution. We're still thinking about it, and we want to see the feedback that is coming from the movement. So with that, you have all the intro that you need to this topic, and I want to hand it over to Nat, as in her capacity as liaison and the chair of the board, to share some thoughts on the recommendations that they gave. Thank you, Nat.
Thank you, Shani. I'm a liaison to the Movement Charter Drafting Committee, and I've been for the past 2 years. I just want to, because again, I cannot assume that everybody read our reflections as liaisons on the letter, on the proposed charter, and our main, our highlight, the recommendation is for the board not to ratify the proposed movement charter, and also to suggest next steps, work on time-bound, practical next steps that would be able to help us move forward as a movement. We think the changes proposed are so big and so difficult to understand how to evaluate them according to the recommendation itself, that the structures need to be rolled off at a sustainable pace, and there should be a way to evaluate, there should be a way to iterate, there should be a way to change. That would be too difficult. So our recommendation is not just to the board just say no, but to the board to actually think about how it can be done and how it can progress and how it can move forward on a smaller pieces of areas of responsibilities that were suggested and publicly published in one of the previous conversations with the MCDC and then on Meta about the areas of responsibilities to hand over and work on how the volunteer oversight can be increased. Oversight and input, like for example, with the Product and Technology Advising Council to the Product and Technology Committee Department of the Wikimedia Foundation. I also want to say that to the point about changes in the world and everything, and some of the feedback that we have heard over mailing lists and on the calls that we have joined, we as liaisons and trustees overall have joined a lot of community calls during the past week, is that the strategy recommendation, this is one of the strategy recommendations. And there is we have already moved from the original text where it was suggested to have interim global council, which would be able to work on the proposal. There is like how to say it? It doesn't feel for me at least as if like, oh, we are saying no, the movement charter, the movement strategies are not, we are not supporting them and we are not doing. We have been experimenting all this time. Hubs were as a process, as an experiment happening while there were conversations with the movement about movement charter. It's not as if the movement charter drafting process stopped everything else or all the work that was happening. So that was our main recommendations. And I think we can talk a bit more about that during the open Q&A. We're going to have more questions on the topic. I'm not sure who I'm going to pass to. Yelena?
Yeah, I can open the floor now if the update's done on this topic, movement charter. Feel free to ask any questions you have here in the chat. If you want to speak live and you're in Zoom, we'd love to hear from you. Raise your hand and we can call on you. I'll give a moment for people to think and generate their questions. And if not, we have some questions from ahead of time that we can get started with. All right, I'll kick us off with, let's see. We have Mache who's raised a hand here in the room. Sorry, Zoom has changed its interface a little bit. So if I miss your hand raise, apologize. I will keep my eye now on this different place that I'm seeing it. Mache, go ahead, take us away.
Thank you, Elena. Hi, everyone. Hello to all the trustees and all the staff and volunteers present here. My name is Maciej Nadzikiewicz. I'm the lead organizer of this year's Wikimania and a board member of Wikimedia Europe. However, I want to make it clear that now my comments are mostly as a volunteer and a person that has actually worked on movement strategy for 2 years as a contractor to the Wikimedia Foundation. I'd like to start by saying that I really thank the board liaisons for publishing their opinion, their statement last week, although the timing on Friday is a subject to discuss. I want to thank for the statement because we now know what you think. However, I wanted to discuss basically the continuation of our discussion that happened this weekend at the Strategic Wikimedia Affiliates Network as to how this happened. We have found ourselves almost 3 years after the initial MCDC process ended, I know because I was working on the first elections to the MCDC back in 2021. And a few days before the community vote that Shani here is urging everybody to vote, and so do I, we have found ourselves with the recommendation from 2 board members, the chair and the vice chair, that is at the same time being told to us that the board has made no decision. We have found ourselves in a time where I feel that somebody is trying to throw a rock into the gears, and not deliberately, but resulting in a confusion to the community. We are being told it's not a board decision, the board decision is yet to come. However, 2 of the most important people in the Wikimedia Foundation are telling us that they do not think this should be agreed on. Could we get more statement from the foundation leadership and the board members on why this happened? What was the understanding behind it? And I also understand from the weekend call that this was against what was agreed on with MCDC, that the board will not share its opinion before the vote, and the board will vote after everybody else, but we ended up with a statement anyway. Thank you very much.
Mache, I'm happy to make a few comments maybe before other trustees weigh in. I understand that we live in a global world across many time zones, and sometimes intent is maybe given where it's not. I just want to be clear, the board had a meeting that ended late evening Israel time, and just to say on Nat's behalf, she stayed up pretty much the whole night to try to get this document out as quickly as possible. So I just think the fact on that is important. I understand why it's always ideal to give people more notice, but that's just the literal facts of what led to the timing of communicating, was just to give us a few hours following the board meeting, which was on Thursday. The only other factual points that I just want to observe is that the liaisons have been communicating regularly with the board, as well as publishing commentary on their behalf and the board's behalf that preceded this note in February and in May. So I understand that we are in a process that many people find having frustrations, and I just want to acknowledge that. But I also just, again, want to point out the facts that we've had 2 communications prior to that from the liaisons that they have conveyed to and with the board prior to this point as well. It's been, I think, a standard practice. So that may not be satisfactory to you, and I understand why people have different desires and impressions, but at least to put some of the context of how things have happened over the course of the past few months. There may be other trustees that want to comment as well.
I'm probably going to go here in this role as a chair. We made sure that, like, I mean, I can't do anything with me being the chair and me also being the liaison to the MCDC. So the board is a collective decision-making body, governance structure. There might be one person who has a different opinion, or 2 people who have different opinion from the whole board, and the whole board is going to have a discussion, and the whole board is going to make a decision that even if people are not sharing or not agreeing, people would still have to share and would need to uphold, would need to respect, and would need to follow, even if they were against while the voting was happening. I understand that there might be a confusion and that people might think that, oh, but the chair said so, oh, but the vice chair said so. Lorenzo became a vice chair not so long ago. And I would argue that probably the most important person on the board might be Jimmy, who has been around for a bit. So, you know, it's not, I would hope that in other organizations and in hubs, the decision making is not happening depending only on what a more important person on the board is saying. As a general note, we are trying to change the format of the conversations that we are having now with trustees, where we are hoping that we can be more free-flowing and also speaking our mind. But I think that it's really important. There is a difference between being able to individually go somewhere and say what you think, and there is a difference between being able to go and say in your role, in your respective role, as a chair of the subcommittee, as a person who is a spokesperson for the board, and also as liaison to some committees. And the same when, we would need to have some conversations who is going to be delivering the vote from the board. Maybe we would need to figure out that it's better if it's like the vice chair who is not involved, like Kathy, who has been also doing the update for the board, just in order to not have one trustee who is speaking too much. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else who wants to say something, chime in from trustees on this.
Sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't know how to raise my hand on Zoom. So real quick, the only thing I would say is on the comment on the most important person. I put it on Jed. I would argue there isn't one. The board is a group of people. There's actually, it's different than what I'm used to in the corporate world, where the chair does have some tie-breaking power in some cases. In our case, that's not even where it comes through. So yeah, in my view, that's just the only piece that I would kind of argue against. It's a body of people that the majority of votes is what decides what the board decides versus individuals on it.
Thanks all the trustees that have weighed in on this. Jimmy, did you want to weigh in quickly before we take a follow-up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a narrative of conflict, an idea of different groups pushing for power and things like this. I think that's just not who we should be. It's not who we really are. And instead, we're working together collaboratively, as on a wiki, to iterate and to improve. And I think that the way I understood the letter from the liaisons is that they don't recommend approval in the current form, and they've got specific reservations. And I think people should hear that and take that seriously. I've seen a few comments in the community that suggest the board's just going to shut all this down and it's all a complete waste of time. And that's of course not the case at all. And so I just sort of ask everyone to please view everything and assume good faith, and let's move forward in a friendly way so we can improve everything.
Thanks, Jimmy. Was a little choppy, but we definitely heard the main message there. And maybe if you want to chime in later, we can totally understand if you want to leave your camera off. It might help us get the audio better, but we did hear your main points quite clearly. Let's go quickly. I know, Maciej, you have a quick follow-up, so we'll take that. And then we're getting questions coming in on the YouTube chat. So I'm going to go to those immediately after the follow-up. Maciej, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Elena. I'll not be taking too much time. Thanks to all of you here for your answer to the role of the board officers on the board. It is a great news that it's the body of all equals. As some of you may know, I'm also a candidate for the board at this year's elections, so it's a great joy for me to hear that if I'm elected, I'll get to share being one of the equals. However, I wanted to put more attention on the second part of my question. We've learned from the SWAN call from the MCDC members that board liaisons and members were asked to directly join the MCDC to create a charter that was already applicable and something that the board could agree on. A bit building on what Jimmy said about cooperating together and not having different groups having different kinds of power, but just creating something that we can all agree on. And now, once again, we have found ourselves with a statement that, from what I understand, was not in the process agreed with MCDC, because the board was said to be spoken last, and it still will. However, we got the liaison statement that has created a lot of confusion. And I just wanted to ask for the reflection on the board that this has created a confusion. This has put a lot of volunteer energy on a matter that everybody would probably prefer to do something different on the weekend. We had over 100 people gather in a 36-hour notice to talk exactly about that. And I just want a board to reflect on that, because it's not something I'm hearing, not here and not on the previous calls. And I think I would just like to ask that volunteers' time and attention is respected, with the understanding that the VOT members' time is also volunteer time. But we are in a situation where the Board of Trustees is above every other volunteer in this process. Thank you.
Maciej, I know you brought in a couple points in that follow-up. Do you want to summarize in just a clear question to the trustees that we can make sure we're getting the answer that you are looking for? Or was it just more of an acknowledgement that you'd like?
An acknowledgement would be great, to go with a transparent communication. However, the main point here is a few sentences of explanation of how we found ourselves in this situation where the board was invited to create the process, and just a few days before the vote starts, we learned that board ambassadors to MCDC liaisons don't agree with it, and they haven't used the opportunity they were given to create something that they could agree on. I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's more of a why now question, and why did the process unfold on the timeline that it did. I know Mariana spoke to the specific timeline of the board's comments last week, but maybe we want to rewind a little bit and talk about the why did this unfold on the path that it did. Risker, do you have an immediate add-on to that?
I do. I think it should be clarified. The MCDC invited, instead of having liaisons, as is the tradition with boards, with the board, they don't have board members who are members of any other committee. We invited them to become full members. And the discussion was amongst themselves as to whether or not they could do that in their role as trustees. That's not something that the MCDC controlled, and quite honestly, I'm not sure that we should have. We invited, and they decided to remain as liaisons. And that's fair. That is something that they have to consider in their role as trustees. They have communicated with us regularly. We knew that they were going to be making a statement beforehand. We did not know exactly what it was going to be, but we did know that it was not going to be tremendously favorable. Their vote, they continue to be voting last, or at least at the same time as the rest of the voting is happening. So that really hasn't changed. And we don't know what the result is going to be any more than we know the result of the individual votes, the community votes, or the affiliate votes. So we will see what we see. I'm complete there, I think. I think I have answered some questions or taken care of some question marks there. But I
think so too. Yeah. Thank you for adding clarity to how that unfolded. We have a clarification in the chat that the board has not made a statement as well, that it has been the board liaisons that have made the statement, and the board discussions are ongoing and will be informed by the comments left in the voting process, as the trustees and Mariana outlined. Shani, would you like to speak a little bit to Maciej's question? I know that he has done some summarizing in the chat.
Yeah, just maybe a quick note of historical reference that maybe may give some clarity considering the questions that are arising regarding why we chose to do that. So I just wanted to kind of give people the perspective that the board is very much aware that it's, yes, we're volunteers, but we do have a special point of view in the movement, the way that we look at things. We see things that as a volunteer before I joined the board, I was unable to see. And that gives us a unique perspective. That said, when going into the process with the MCDC, there was a very conscious decision to try to really respect the process that this group of volunteers is setting. And we really tried not to interfere. We tried to guide, we tried to give information that we thought was important for the MCDC in weighing things in. But it felt not right for the board to be directly involved in that work. So the board doesn't get to influence, but really respect the process that was created by volunteers. So this is where we were coming from. So in a sense, it was meant to be respectful of that process rather than interfere and save our power or any other conspiracy out there about that decision. It wasn't like that at all. It was about allowing the process to happen as it is, as it unfolded, and guide as much as we can, support as much as we can. We still are really rooting for, we wanted the process to be successful for the movement. And I think that's important to kind of acknowledge. We're not against the process in any way, shape, or form. There are issues that we still need to be solved and haven't been. And that's what we need to be discussing together collectively. And we haven't so far. We've heard from liaisons who've been tracking in meetings and being more close to MCDC members and the process itself, but it doesn't mean that we immediately have the same ideas. We are 12 individuals and each of us have their own perspectives and their own experience that we bring to the room, and we need to get to a place of consensus, and that hasn't happened yet. So I hope that gives some more perspective on why we didn't want to interfere so much.
Thank you for outlining what went into that decision. And I think, you're talking about the collective discussion and consensus building that needs to happen. I know that earlier when you all were speaking about the vote, you mentioned that it's really important that people leave comments and that that the board is going to be actively looking at those comments in deciding the vote, the way they'll vote, the path forward, all of that. So I hope that addresses the question that was asked in the YouTube chat about why is the board asking volunteers to spend time voting in an election that will not lead to ratification. I think you all clarified that. First of all, the board has not come to a collective decision yet. And second of all, it will help fuel the collective discussion that needs to happen about this work. So I hope that answers the question that was brought up in the YouTube chat. Jan Bart, I see you have a question here in the room, so I'd like to give you the mic if you'd like to take it.
Oh yeah, great, thanks. Jan Bart de Vrede, Wikimedia Netherlands, former board member. I don't get it, I'm sorry. If the liaisons were there to help make the charter succeed and the MCDC succeed, then we should have never ended up in a process where the end recommendation of the liaisons is not to approve. That means you should have maybe used your influence, or you should have taken another position, because there's no way this process could have led to this and we can call that a success. There should have been some other position, maybe that should have been more influence, maybe that should have been more of a negotiation or whatever, because I understand the responsibilities the board has to take, but this can never be the intention, spending 3 years or whatever on such a process and coming to the end conclusion. Like, we wanted to respect everyone's own process and everything else, but unfortunately we have a result we can't live with. That doesn't work for me somehow.
Thanks, Jan Bart. I think that that's a reflection that we could sit with. Nat, would you like to respond to that? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing is that how the board members were included in the process was not very clear from the beginning. And what we wrote in our reflections was that the board, of course, must take some responsibility for the outcome of the process. Sometimes, if you don't have a vote, your perspectives might be not accepted, ignored, or not taken into account. And sometimes it's not. Like, I mean, the vote should not be the only thing which tells whether you have a voice in the room. But how we were included and how the whole process was not a great experience, neither for me as a volunteer, nor I'm sure for the MCDC. And whereas I understand that the end product is, okay, that's a bad situation. I agree, yes, but we learned things. And we are saying that, yes, let's finish the process as it was now. Let's take what we can, because the process was not a waste overall. We have learned things. We have made some conclusions and lessons learned that probably are going to help us move forward, unless we, I don't know, decide to start from a blank sheet of paper and just forget everything that was. So Jan Bart, I can tell you that, everybody else on the call, I can tell you that I'm also like not very thrilled. It's a very difficult letter, and it's very difficult to go out there and transparently say, hey, we don't think that it should be, we can't recommend this to be approved, because I understand the feeling of good enough or safe to try. I don't think this is safe to try. I'm sorry. In my Ukrainian community, color of a template was able to like split the community into with multiple admins resigning, blocking each other and everything. And that's a color of a template. A document of this magnitude is so not enough clarity and not enough tried things. We have seen this document, the final documents, 2 weeks ago, just like any one of you. This is the first time, like on, okay, May was the first time, or April, when everybody saw the first full document. That was when we saw it. Then this time, we have, for the first time, seen the final document. It's, wiki lawyering is a real thing, and whatever is written there, the Wikimedia Foundation would actually need to go and uphold if the board ratifies it. It's going to become a legal reality for the Wikimedia Foundation. It might not be a legal reality or any reality for, I don't know, all the volunteers, all the contributors, all the affiliates, and everybody else. But it is going to be a legal reality for the Wikimedia Foundation. And I, as a board liaison of the Wikimedia Foundation, I don't see how the Wikimedia Foundation would be able to actually put it to practice without people being able to say, no, this can be like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. And no one is like the acknowledgement that there is a responsibility and accountability for the process and how it went is also the Wikimedia Foundation. And it was mentioned in the letter. And we can say that, yes, the process was not fantastic. We tried to do it. We also tried to figure out, like, you know, like 3 years ago, it was one reality. How it was going to be later on, how it was going to be in 2024, we didn't know. If we failed with that, yeah, we failed with some parts of it. With being able to say, hey, this is actually the document that we can also stand behind. And yes, you can be upset with us, we can be upset with ourselves, and we can be upset with the whole process. The work, even if the work has not produced a single document that we as liaisons can recommend to the board to ratify, we think that the work done the conversations and the spirit of trying to figure out how to proceed, how to progress as a movement was not in vain. It is going to help us all to move forward, but we need to do it in a smaller chunks than what we thought would be a good idea in 2021. I'm not, don't know who is else in line.
Thank you, Nat. I know it's been
Thank you.
many years and lots of deep thinking on this. So thank you for taking through taking us through some of this journey that you've been on. I know we have a lot of questions here coming up about the movement charter. We are in open question and answer territory at this point. And I promise we'll get to these movement charter questions, but I know Luis has to leave very soon. And there is a question about product and tech that has come up in the YouTube chat. So I just want to make sure we get in this product and tech question quickly, Luis, before you have to go. It's about the graphs. I'm just looking, where did I put it? It's about the graphs extension. The question from the YouTube chat, it says, editors are frustrated that graphs have been broken for over a year. This person observes that there weren't resources in this current annual plan to fix them. The question is, how can the board help address the problem, and what is going to be going on with graphs? Maybe you can speak to what's going to go on with graphs under this upcoming annual plan that's going to kick off in a few days.
Sure.
Luis.
Perfect. Thanks, Elena. So good news, graphs is part of the annual plan that begins next week. So as the foundation moves into next fiscal year here, the foundation has assembled a task force that's going to work to build a new replacement extension. The new extension is going to initially support a small but widely used set of data visualizations and Wikipedia articles, and it's going to be built in a way that new data sources and visualizations can be added in the future. In terms of timeline, the task force wants to build something that will allow volunteers to start creating new graphs, new charts, and migrating existing graphs to charts before the end of the calendar year. Speaking of which, if you have specific graphs in mind that you'd like to see supported in the new system, please provide feedback on the talk page. Meyer, our human link generator, can help us in chat with that. And there's going to be an update and a new project page in the next 2 weeks or so. But for now, you can start using the graph talk page for that discussion.
Thank you for that, Luis. And a quick related question from ahead of time that's just about product and tech under the annual plan more generally, or under annual plans more generally. There was an observation that annual plans have been centering product and tech work, and that's going to continue into this upcoming year. Obviously, prioritizing graphs is just a small part of that, but it is a part of that. And so the question is, how are product and technology teams evolving to be carrying out this work, to be carrying more of the load of annual plans going forward?
Perfect. I try to address it in one way here, but also folks want to chime in chat here as well. Oh, sorry, I heard my audio is fuzzy. Apologies for that. So the one big change that I see and that's been helping a lot is the product and technology teams becoming one singular team under single leadership. I think that's been helping a bunch. We're seeing the team work really closely with the community. So I think this is a really important piece for actually in the previous conversation we were just having the graphs conversation, as well as other things that we need help from or need input from the community on as well. I want to give a special shout out to the Product and Technology Advisory Council proposal. Meyer, please help with the link here as well. That is a recommendation straight out of the movement strategy. So applications for that are going to open July 1st. Council intends to kick it off September 15th. Please check out the link. This is a perfect way for the community to get super involved with our product and technology decisions, planning, implementations. There's a whole different piece from this as well around, wish lists that we can talk through at future stages. To really give a call out to that. And then one personal experience that I had that I have to mention, even though it wasn't strictly in the question, but I'm going to cheat a little bit here. But the thing that made me personally really motivated too has been the speed of iteration that I'm seeing, not just in the feedback loop, iteration loop, getting the community closer, but also one example that I personally had, which was at the New York board meeting we had, I believe in March. There was a dev demo of a citation needed plugin. MCDC was there, the board members were there, foundation staff was there. And we all got to play with it, and I asked, hey, how do I get this on my machine? And it was like a zip file with a bunch of crazy steps I had to do, and things I had to configure to get it working. And just a couple months later, it was live for people to download as a Chrome extension. So I thought that even though it's one quick, simple example, that speed of iteration of seeing how can we help the movement strategy further? How can we activate here? How can we move quicker and pull in feedback quicker and get that out in people's hands to get that feedback quicker as well was really rewarding for me too.
Thanks so much, Luis, and thank you for joining us as time permits. Appreciate you taking these questions before you have to jump off. With that, we may go back to the movement charter. So I will take Gergo, you have your hand up here in the room. Would you like to unmute and ask a question? I actually don't know that you're going to ask about the movement charter. That was just an assumption on my part. This is open Q&A. You can ask about whatever you'd like. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. Sorry for the lack of backlighting. Thanks for making space for these difficult conversations. I have two comments. One of them is that so 4 years ago, the board approved the movement recommendations. One of the movement recommendations was to create a charter and create a global council. So it's very clear where the MCDC's text is coming from. And obviously 4 years is a long time, especially if you are spending those 4 years on exploring and refining the initial ideas. People's understanding of those ideas can change. Even the people who compose the board change somewhat. So it can happen that the board makes a commitment, and then it turns out that in the light of later information, it was not the right thing. It needs to be changed. But I think it's really important to be clear about it when that happens. So assuming that the board acts on the recommendation given by its liaisons, I think it should be very clear on whether they reject the charter because they have changed their mind on the recommendation and they don't think that the charter and the Global Council are useful things to have, or they reject the charter because they still think that that's a good direction to move into, but think that the specific implementation of it that the MCDC has put down is not the right one. So I hope that, well, in the first place, I hope that the board changes its mind, but if it doesn't, then I hope they will give us clarity on that. And then the other comment is that I just want to echo Jan Bart that I think this outcome has been a failure. So like if the editors reject the charter, that's one thing, because they had very limited interaction points with the whole process. They basically had two times in the whole 2 years to comment. It's hard to coordinate opinions, but the board had constant access. The board had its liaisons participating with the MCDC. The board directed the support staff who worked with the MCDC. So having all that close collaboration and still not ending up with some version of a charter that both parties could agree on seems like a huge failure. And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying it because I think this is a very important if we want to move towards a more collaborative movement where the board more actively works with the community on strategy. Then like it's like this is the kind of failure that would continue to break things even if we had a global council, because you end up with the same kind of collaboration situations where you have two groups closely working together, and if they cannot come to a consensus, then things end badly. So I just hope that the board takes this very seriously and puts in the effort to analyze what went wrong and how we could possibly change the process of collaboration so that in the future we have a process that performs better. Thank you.
Thanks, Gergo. So just to quickly summarize, I know your questions earlier on concretely were whether the board has changed its mind on the concept of the charter or global council in general, changed its mind on the concept being useful, or is the recommendation from the liaisons based on the fact that you don't think implementation is where it should be? And that relates to a question here actually in the YouTube chat about whether it's too late to address the outstanding issues. If the recommendation comes from the thought that implementation is not where it should be, does that mean it's too late to address any outstanding issues in the charter? Nat, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so I don't think that the outstanding issues can be resolved quickly. I think it requires some time and a different process. One of them, for me, that we also have been saying, and I have also engaged on Meta, is values. I do not think that the process about values was the process that I can say, yeah, this is a movement values. We had conversation around that, and we all agree these are the things that we, the movement, are going to die by. I don't think so. And I think that the values are going to, because that is a thing that we fundamentally agree is something that we are about. And that is going to tell us how the structures are going to be working, what are the things that we need to do, how we are going to collaborate with each other. We need to agree on something fundamental before we are able to move forward. And that didn't happen. I'm very sorry if somebody else feels differently, but for me, as a 50% of liaisons, I do not feel that this proposed text of the movement charter is providing a sense of belonging. I'm sorry, if that is not you, you go and vote and say what you think about that. But I also don't think that we had a real conversation. What are we about as a movement? And for some people in the call, it may be absolutely clear, but I can tell you that it's not. Some people are because they are sharing the platform. This is a hobby and they like it. And some people want to preserve their languages. And some people are actually about free knowledge and free licenses. And some are about education. We want educational content. That's why we are allowing non-free licenses. Or are we actually about free and then everything should be free? There should be no non-free media available on our projects. I know this is like a very, I don't know, down-to-earth example, but I, as a Wikipedian, care what we all think. Like, because if we do not have something that leads us to, yeah, this is where we want to go, then what we are doing is actually adhering to the rules of the platform. That's how you engage with each other in trying to build free knowledge with what we have. And maybe we don't need to, you know, move as a movement to something bigger. I don't know. I haven't heard this and I haven't received this result in this process. Do we need to move smaller steps? I think so. I think that it was not a good decision to do it in 2021. Because you may think about this as a different one, but basically, movement charter process was kind of mediation process between different parties in the movement. And if some parties are not actually clear what they want the result out of that be, you can't go with the mediation process. You can't agree on collaboration if you do not agree on what you want to build or how you want to build. And that's what happened. And we can go around that. I'm very sorry. I'm not an American. It's difficult for me. I'm going to say as it is. I, as a contributor, individual contributor, as an affiliate member, as a member of my community, And also, as a board member of the Wikimedia Foundation, and also as a liaison to the MCDC, I do not feel that this proposed charter is the way to go. Now, the concept itself of the movement charter is something that I believe we actually need. We need to have it. That's why I was a part of the roles and responsibilities working strategy group when we proposed that that's something that the movement needs. I still agree. I believe that I can still disagree with exactly this text, even if the concept itself is fine. We should just be able to agree to disagree while also trying to assume good faith. I am going to finish my term in like a year on the board, and I'm going to return to be an individual contributor. And I still do not think that this proposed movement charter is the result that I was hoping for in 2016 when I was in the boardroom, when the board approved embarking on a movement strategy. That's the story of my life and my timing on the board. From the moment that we decided to go on to the moment that we are now discussing this on the call.
Thanks, Nat. You've certainly been on the board through many pivotal moments, including this one. I think that you pretty much covered also the next part of Gergo's question, which is around this narrative of failure and what it means for collaboration and what next steps will look like. So I think I may take, let's see, Stephen, I know you have your hand up. Do you have a quick follow-up or a quick comment related to what we're discussing right now? Okay.
Yes, I appreciate this.
And then after I'll go to you, Hari.
Perfect. So basically it was a charter process. It was not a movement to create a global, sorry, let me turn off my video. It was a charter process to create a document. It wasn't a process to create a new Congress or Senate or council. So the people who were supporting this by consensus were supporting a new document that would give us a new focus, a renewed sense of mission. The thought of creating some higher supreme authority, which then the committee that drafted this would be ideally positioned to put themselves onto, it's really terrible. We should have not called it a chartered committee process. We should have called it a global council committee process. The global council idea should just be dropped, and just the charter without that idea should be considered. That's my position.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that reflection with us. Hari, is your question pertaining to the movement charter? It doesn't matter if it's not, that we are in the open Q&A section, and I'm happy to take a question on a different topic and then bring it back to the movement charter. I know Farah, you also mentioned you have something that's not related to movement charter, so we can take that as well. But Hari, would you like to go ahead?
Yep, it wasn't related with the movement charter. But yeah, let me introduce myself first. Again, hello everyone. I'm Hari and I'm from Indonesia, and I already got consent to bring this issue from the victim. As we know, during our last meeting in March, I highlighted concerns regarding Wikimedia Indonesia's statement, Wikimedia Indonesia's treatment to its former employee. You can refer to the recording on the Wikimedia Foundation's YouTube channel for more details. I have a questions. I have given this context, I have a few questions. My first question is, what can the foundation and the wider Wikimedia community do if a chapter, in this case Wikimedia Indonesia, fails to fulfill its obligations towards an ex-employee? To provide some backgrounds, I will share relevant links to Zoom chats and YouTube chat. I send it here and YouTube chat. Oh, okay, wait a minute.
We got some links from you in the chat here.
Yep, I also posted in the YouTube chat. Yeah, to provide some backgrounds, yeah, I already shared relevant links in the Zoom chat and YouTube chat. Please see the meta page and the documents I posted. It's in the meta page too. Specifically, if you see the documents on the page 6.3 of the document states that the lawyers assisting us in resolving this case confirmed that we have fulfilled our obligation to pay compensation. Any funds returned by her will be regarded as a donations. We sent her an official letter twice on December 13, 2023 and 3 January 2024 to discuss this case, but she did not attend the scheduled calls. Here are the key issues. There was a valid reason why she couldn't respond to the letters
Sorry,
from
I'm really sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
I think that in this space, as we mentioned in the ground rules, we've got to talk about the content, and we can't be talking about people who, especially people who are not here to provide their
I
their
already
perspective
got
on the call.
consent
So
from her.
I'm happy to take your question about what the foundation can do when an affiliate is not fulfilling its obligations towards the mission. And if
Yep.
you have another general question that we can answer as the foundation, we're happy to do that. But let's try to avoid
Okay.
many people into the conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
As I already told there, could you please advise on the steps the foundation can take to address this issue and ensure such situations are handled appropriately in the future? And is it right for our accountability as a movement if donation being treated like this manner?
Thank you. So the question being, how can the foundation ensure accountability of affiliates towards donation money? And as well, how can the foundation ensure the accountability of affiliates towards the general
I
mission?
mean, you're missing the context that the victim received a money transfer without prior agreement and a return money is standing. There's no agreement standing and no consent, so it's clearly not a donation. But Wikimedia said it's donations. It's the matter like that I want to address here.
Okay. I know, Maggie, you've been working on this case, and I'm wondering if you can add some general thoughts, or perhaps Stephen, as general counsel, can add some general thoughts to the issue being raised.
So the Wikimedia Foundation has a special relationship with affiliates that needs to be managed and considered, particularly when it comes to affiliate employee relations. There are processes, you reach out through the affiliations committee. The affiliations committee currently reviews with the appropriate staff to make sure that the charter of the affiliate is being followed, to make sure that the funding of the affiliate is being used. But when it comes to disputes between individual employees and their affiliate, these are almost always going to be local matters for local legislation and for individual contracts with the employee. I'm a little bit at a loss for what more to say, because we have discussed this a number of times in this call, and I just don't have any more information. The question about handling donations and ensuring that donations are particularly well handled is new to me. I'd be willing to hear more from you about this and see what I can do. If you want to follow up with me personally, I'm happy to look into it, but this is new.
Maggie, thank you for your concerns. Let's meet after this meeting.
Great, thank you. So I know we've had Farah with your hand up for quite a while here in Zoom as well. Thank you for your patience. Would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, sorry, this is not about the charter. I know this is the most important topic of the hour, but I believe that what I'm going to raise is also important to discuss. I don't know if there's going to be an answer immediately, but so earlier this week, the UN launched this global principles to combat online hate and lies. And so this was like on Monday and Tuesday. So I don't know if that's but basically they called on tech companies and other stakeholders to take an active role in pushing back against disinformation, among other. I mean, it's a lot of it is for Facebook and the social media platforms, but we are also as a Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects, we're also a platform for sharing information. So with artificial intelligence increasingly being used to generate content, and with governments and other players embarking on sophisticated disinformation and propaganda campaigns, how does the Wikimedia Foundation view itself in this new ecosystem, I guess, and also how will it promote these principles, and how will it support the volunteer communities in promoting this? Of course, the volunteer communities, they're doing excellent work to maintain wholesome content, and their independence should be definitely not tampered with, but also we're all volunteers, and the foundation has more resources than a bunch of volunteers to look into that. So is there any plan to discuss this, or do we have any plans already for that? Thank you.
Thanks, Faraz. So question about if there's any plans already in motion around protecting volunteers in these types of contexts of disinformation, and protecting the integrity of the content on the projects. Is there anyone who would like to speak to that, either generally or specifically? And then, of course, we can continue this discussion.
I'm happy to just speak briefly on that, and thank you for sharing the principles. So I haven't been following these principles specifically, but I think you really hit on what I think is an important consideration, because this is not the first place where disinformation and AI and concerns about harassment or hate speech online comes up. And I think Wikimedia has a really unique space and a really unique opportunity to be part of these conversations. Because of what you spoke about before, sort of our model for working with volunteers to ensure that the decisions around what kind of speech is allowed or not allowed is not centrally made by the platform host, but sort of done through this joint community governance model that includes things like the terms of use, the universal code of conduct, and a wide range of different volunteers at different levels making decisions about what is appropriate or not. And so I think that it's important for us to follow a lot of these conversations, because I think we have a lot of good lessons to sort of show for other for-profit platforms on how to do this in an equitable way. And also, I think that the countering considerations like freedom of expression and ensuring that people can participate in things like fighting disinformation and are not just purely the recipients of decisions made, from tech companies located elsewhere is a really complicated thing, and we're sort of working it out in practice. So I'll take a look at these principles. Happy to chat more about it with you at some point if you're interested, and I'm glad you're bringing it up to this space, because I think it's a really important thing for us to track as we think about our movement.
Thanks, Stephen. And I see Shani has something to add about volunteers and affiliates on this topic.
Yeah, thanks, Elena. Something quite practical. We're going to have Wikimania coming up soon, and just wanted to say that as a volunteer in the movement, I think there's a huge space for not just volunteers, but also affiliates to take on some roles of helping to do capacity building for the whole movement. It's not just the foundation that needs to be concerned about that. And we're going to have, we just got a notice that there will be a panel on generative AI and our movement, and we're going to have a multi-stakeholder approach to it. So if you're attending Wikimania in person or online, you're welcome to join us. And we're also going to facilitate a practical workshops of how we can interweave, weave, is that the right word I'm looking for? Sorry. Weave Gen AI into our wiki workflows. So how we can harness, in essence, these new technologies to the workflows of Wikimedians so we can enhance what we're doing and understand the consequences and kind of help build capacity for the community. So there's like tons of practical stuff that we can do besides the high level stuff that Stephen was talking about, and the foundation is doing its work. I won't speak for Selena, and there are different groups at the foundations that are looking into Gen AI, that are experimenting, but I think it's a collective. What I'm trying to say is that it's a collective effort. It's not just one portion of the movement that needs to be looking into this, but everyone, like all stakeholders, everyone can do something in that respect. It doesn't matter if you're a volunteer or an affiliate or WMF staff. We are all looking at that, and the board itself is also like keeping a close tab. I was hoping Jimmy may be able to say a few things. I don't know if he's still here.
No, Jimmy lost.
Oh, he's not.
Also,
Okay.
he's had to,
But yeah, join us at Wikimania and join the Telegram and Facebook groups if you're interested in the topic, and share your thoughts. It's a collective effort globally to address this new thing that is happening, and it's for all of us together to figure out how and what we can do in this context to continue serve humanity.
Thank you, Shani, and thank you for that question, Farah. We are reaching the end of the call. I know we have a number of outstanding questions from both chats, including obviously the movement charter, but there are other topics as well, like the Universal Code of Conduct and the investment of funds under the annual plan that is about to kick off. So just to remind everyone, since we weren't able to get to all the questions today, we will be answering those questions on the meta page, on the event meta page in the next few days for you to review. If you have a question that you haven't been able to ask in chat, please feel free to just put that in the chat now, and we'll capture the chat and make sure to answer that question following the call. Vicky, do we want to run the survey quickly and wrap up?
Yes, and I wanted to summarize, saying that we covered topics on graphs and other questions. The most important question was the charter, and I would like to say that there is no failure narrative. We shouldn't consider if the vote is happening, whatever is the result of the vote, is just a step forward on the way to improving the governance. So all these talks about the result is already predetermined. The board cannot ignore liaisons. But what about the community vote and the affiliate vote? These are all important stakeholders. And as a result of the collective decision, we will move forward. So we usually do polls at the end of these calls to show us whether we're moving in the right direction, whether you like how the call proceeded. So the moderators will post link in the chat, and it will be updating every 30 seconds. And there will be a second piece of the poll where you can give us feedback. And as I said in the beginning, depending on this feedback, we will change the format of the conversation with trustees call. And the same goes to your vote for the charter, where you can also leave comments. So, and we can see the results already. And high numbers of usefulness of the conversation, but there is some frustration that the questions were not answered clearly, and most of the people would like to attend another conversation. As I said, the next conversation will be during Wikimania. You will be able to join it online if you're not in Katowice. And the open questions, the increased time for the questions is still not as high as we would like them to be.
It's all right. We're all about iterating and adapting, as we've said many times. So thank you for everyone who's participated in the poll. We do take these numbers, we review them, we think about how we can improve on the indicators that we'd like to improve on. I see 11 people have participated in the poll so far. I know we're a little bit delayed with YouTube, so I'm hoping the people who are watching on YouTube with about a minute or two delay will also vote in this poll. And please do fill in the open question once you've completed the poll. If you want to provide any feedback for us, of course, we do action that as well. So thank you all so much for coming for this very lively discussion. Again, we'll follow up on Meta with the questions we didn't have time to answer. And we hope to see many of you at Wikimania. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much, Vicky.
See you all at Wikimania.
See you then.